Take a listen.
A lot of things to talk about with America's team. Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. Magnum wanting to get back the U.S. heavyweight title, U.S. tag team tournament, and now Paul Jones's Army looking for this World TV title.
A whole lot of things going on, but sometimes you got to focus your attention at one thing, and that is tomorrow, that U.S. Tag Team Tournament. Now, the Dream and I ourselves have geared ourselves to this one particular thing. Because people said all the time that we've never held any major tag team titles as America's team. Well, America's team tomorrow is going to that tournament wide open, taking each and every opponent dead serious, because in a tournament, you got to take one thing at a time to make your way to the top, and that's exactly what we intend to do.
You know, it's a very important time for professional wrestling. The national tag team titles for so many years meant so much to so many people because of his contract. And then Ole Anderson decided to take a trip, you understand, up in Wisconsin when Dusty Rhodes took him out of the ball game. Now these United States tag team titles, these new belts on the line tomorrow night, and I'm there, Dusty Rhodes, Magnum TA, America's team now gonna come together for this thing, because there's two things we want back. We want back his made U.S. heavyweight title back around his waist, and the United States tag team title around Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA's waist. It's going to be an awesome tournament. People coming from far and wide, limousines be lined up, little jets be flying in. All barons coming all the way from Texas, all the way from Kenya, coming all in here. Captain Redneck, Dick Murdoch. This is the big one in the Omni. Come on, everybody got to get a seat, get there early, because Dusty Rhodes intends on making this thing right for America's team, Dusty Rhodes and Magnum TA. There is no other team but America's team. There used to be another America's team, but they're about 19 games out of first place.
Wow.
Fans, let's go to the ring.
About 19 games out of first place.
Yeah, 86 was not a good year for the Atlanta Braves. And, man, how about that left-hand hook from Dusty to the Atlanta Braves and Ted Turner and WTBS. Hey, interesting, couple of things interesting there. Doing a little shooting right there. Ole Anderson took a trip to Wisconsin and it was taken out of the ball game. How about that? That is a little
real life inside dig.
Real life inside dig about, I guess, Vince McMahon buying Georgia Championship Wrestling. And from Ole Anderson, who was against it. That's probably been well documented. And so he just goes off and goes to Wisconsin, and now he comes back, and there's no longer a national heavyweight champion, buddy, or as of this weekend, it's not going to be. So let me ask you this. You probably, and I think we've talked about this, we're doing a lot of promoting for tomorrow night in the Omni.
Yeah.
But the gate ended up not being that good, right?
Woo. So let's run through it. The Omni used to seat what? How many? Do you recall?
10,000 maybe? 15,
oh, gotta be more than that.
Well, 15 then. Let's say 15.
Let me just look it up real fast.
Okay. Meanwhile, we got our buddy Hector Guerrero.
The Coliseum of the Omni.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude, this had to hold more than that.
What does it say?
Trying to find. They did basketball. They did hockey. They did soccer. 15,278 for hockey. 16,378 for basketball. 3,000 fans are here to see the tag champs. 3,000.
3,000.
3,000.
That's not much more than what would go on ringside.
I think, as much as I love it, let's pretend for a minute that what we're watching is on the up and up. What we're watching is a legitimate athletic event. There's no theater. There's no theatrics. There's no cooperation. I love the concept of a tournament. It makes it feel real. Like if this was amateur wrestling, that's the way it would work. There would be a real tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that concept.
Mm-hmm.
But God, did it ever work in wrestling?
Mm-mm.
Was it ever a draw? I mean, that's just
one time.
I think what was that?
Okay. I think I got the ticket stub, but I had the poster in 1978.
I was -3. Can you continue?
Okay. Greensboro Coliseum, they stripped the World Tag Team belts from Ric Flair and Greg Valentine.
Okay.
And had a one-night tournament at the Greensboro Coliseum for the World Tag Team belts, and it sold it out completely. Smack dab sold it out. Ricky Steamboat and Paul Jones won the tournament. The Briscoes were in the tournament. Baron von Raschke and Mass Superstar were in the tournament. Ric Flair and Greg Valentine were not. Valentine came out at the beginning. I know all this. I remember all this. I don't know. Came out at the beginning and said because they were unfairly stripped of the title, that they would not participate in the tournament. And it was a one-night tournament, and it was really, really good. So that I remember. That sold out the Greensboro Coliseum. But here in the Omni, because it's the U.S. Tag Team belts, right, and not the World Tag Team belts, again, you just can't elevate those. So that's the one time. I'd like to find out. I'm sure there's somewhere on the internet that talks about that night. I never will forget. We brought
MidAtlanticGateway.com, if I had to guess.
Yeah, we brought about 10 guys down. We had 2 cars. One was a van. And we drove down from Virginia that night and saw that. Wow, great memories. But yeah, 3,000 fans, not much. Not only 3,000 fans, but 3,000 fans for that hard sell, right? I mean, you could say, oh, okay, I mean, you can give all the excuses you want. Back to school, people don't, oh, here we go.
And Tony, I got to tell you, I'm looking forward to today's show. You know, we've marched through a lot of 1986. I can't believe it, but we're almost in the last quarter of 1986, which means we're going to get closer to Starrcade and everything else. But unfortunately, the next big thing is going to be the NWA US Tag Team Championship Tournament finals and quarterfinals. And we're going to get some new US Tag Team champs. And I love the look of those belts, and I'm excited about that. But the concept doesn't get me as excited.
No, I never was thrilled about a secondary tag team belt. It's funny when years later, when K. Allen Fry, Kip Fry, ran the company, he was really into the U.S. belts, and we did a whole thing, if you'll recall, with the tournament, and he was very disappointed that it did not, quote unquote, get a better number for us than it did. And I remember him saying to me, I'm really disappointed that our U.S. tournament is not drawing better numbers. I said, well, it's kind of a secondary belt to the world title. And he said, why didn't you tell me that before we started this whole thing?
Well, I thought you knew, you dumb motherfucker.
Exactly.
You realize that the U.S. is smaller than the world, don't you? You dumb shit. If you could run the world, you could run the U.S.
Yeah, you would think.
Come on.
So yeah, it's a secondary belt. And at the same time, we are getting into the unification between the U.S. and national championship, Wahoo and Nikita Koloff. The U.S. title was the top regional belt or the top belt for the Crockett or the Mid-Atlantic territory. The national heavyweight championship was the equivalent for Georgia Championship Wrestling. So they were going to unify them both. And obviously the Crockett's were going to call it the U.S. title instead of the national title. So there. And that's why the national title has been retired. Unless, does the NWA still recognize it? Does anybody still have the national heavyweight championship? Somebody's got the belt, but is there a champion around on the independent circuit?
Yes, many champions.
Many national champions, but not the national champion from the Georgia era. Not the one that I'm sure Wildfire Tommy Rich had at one time. Or who else would have been the national champion? I'm sure there's a list somewhere of the old Georgia national.
There's a list right now, and his name is Chris Adonis. Now, you fucking goof, you probably know him as Chris Masters, but old Chris Adonis over in the NWA has been repping that national championship for the NWA proudly since July 8th. How about that?
That's tremendous. Good for him.
Yeah.
Good for Chris Masters, Chris Adonis.
Great close personal friend of the show. He listens to the show, Tony.
Hey, Chris, thanks, man. I'm glad. I'm glad you listened to the show. You're a good guy, and congratulations on being in the family tree of Adrian Adonis as well.
Nope, they look totally different guy.
It doesn't matter if you look different. You can be in the family tree.
Hey, I wanted to mention